When a sovereign state is besieged amid a circle of chaos and escalating conflicts, and when external pressures are imposed upon it beyond its capacity to endure, the question is no longer about borders or immediate interests, but about the fate of a homeland and the future of a nation. Egypt, with its history deeply rooted in civilization and its pivotal geopolitical position, faces today a decisive turning point that does not concern it alone, but whose impact extends to the entire region. The issue today is not an economic crisis, nor a security disorder, but a historic crossroads that places Egypt before two choices with no third option: either to preserve national sovereign decision-making or to submit to pressures dictated by the interests of powers that see the region only as a sphere of influence. In this context, we must read the scene with a calm, analytical eye, recognize the threats, weigh the options, and pose the most important question: where is Egypt headed, and who is it meant to be?
Since the dawn of history, Egypt's geographical location has not been just a detail on the map, but a destiny that shapes its roles and creates its confrontations. It is the bridge between Africa and Asia, the meeting point between East and West, and whoever controls it holds one of the most important arteries of global trade. The Suez Canal, this strategic maritime passage, carries more than 12% of the world's trade, making Egypt a beating heart in the global geopolitical equation. As for Sinai, it is not just a desert between two shores, but a living border directly connected to Israel and the Gaza Strip, representing a sensitive gateway for Egyptian national security. Today, with the flames of war intensifying in Gaza, the eyes of Western powers turn toward Cairo, and in various forms, the idea of turning Egypt into a transit area for Palestinians fleeing the massacres is being proposed. But the fundamental question remains: will this proposal turn into a plan for permanent population displacement, burying the Palestinian identity in the sands of Sinai? Or will Egypt, as its leadership has affirmed, remain steadfast against this plan, refusing to be an alternative gateway to the right of return? What is happening at the Rafah crossing is not just a humanitarian crisis, but a full-fledged tragedy that threatens to redraw the map of the region with the tears of refugees. Israel is threatening the option of forced displacement for the people of Gaza under a deceptive name: humanitarian evacuation. But the facts on the ground expose the intentions. What is being presented is not rescue, but uprooting. Not protection, but the erasure of the identity of an entire people. Sinai, in this scenario, is not a refuge, but is intended to be an open grave for the Palestinian identity, and a new phase of bearing the dream of return under the rubble of reality. Cairo has clearly rejected this path. It declared that the displacement of Palestinians to Egyptian lands is a red line that must not be crossed, because opening the gates of Sinai today means closing the doors of Palestine forever. And if this displacement is realized, Gaza will never be as it was, nor Palestine as we know it, and the Middle East will enter a new phase of forced change of borders and identities. But the pressures do not always come from the barrels of guns, nor from airplane bombs. There is another war, silent, but more deadly. It is the war of markets, banks, and funding funds. Since the outbreak of the war in Gaza, navigation in the Suez Canal has shaken, a decline exceeding 40% due to the Red Sea turmoil and Houthi attacks in support of Gaza. Tourism, one of the pillars of the Egyptian economy, suddenly stopped, leaving behind empty hotels and lost billions. Then came the International Monetary Fund, not to rescue, but to tighten the grip of austerity, with harsh conditions under the banner of reform. In this scene, the goal is clear. It is an attempt to subjugate Egypt, not by military force, but by financial power, to politically kneel it and strip it of its ability to say no, all without firing a single bullet. On the home front, the Egyptian street is boiling with anger and resentment. Young people are raising Palestinian flags in the heart of Cairo, raising their voices where the elites have fallen silent, and declaring their rejection of betrayal, normalization, and treacherous neutrality. In the shadows, Islamist political groups are moving again, those who have always found opportunity in chaos, and cover in foreign support. Today, the Egyptian state faces an extremely complex test. If it tightens its grip, a popular explosion becomes a matter of time. And if it loosens, it opens the doors to chaos that has never been fully closed for the past decade. It is the equation of security and sovereignty confronting anger and tension in a time when mistakes are no longer acceptable and hesitation is not allowed. As for the field of foreign policy, the trap is tightly closed. Cairo leads mediation efforts, seeking a ceasefire, opening the Rafah crossing to receive aid and moving between major capitals east and west. But this independence comes at a price, a heavy price. The West demands unconditional loyalty to Israel, and the Egyptian street insists on justice for Palestine. And every step toward an independent national decision means facing threats, stopping American aid, declining Gulf support, or even political instability at home. And when Cairo supported South Africa's case against Israel before the International Court of Justice, it was not just a symbolic stance, but a clear message that Egypt declares its will and rejects the logic of dictates and tutelage. As for Moscow, the scene is viewed from a different angle. In Russia's view, this crisis is not just a border dispute or a relief crisis, but a blatant test for the future of the entire global order. The Western powers, as Moscow sees them, are not looking for partners, but for followers who obey orders without question and submit to dictates from overseas. As for the rising powers, Russia, China, and their partners in the BRICS group, they present a different vision, a world where states are not governed by pressure and dictation, but share sovereignty and share the voice and decision-making. Egypt today is a new member of this bloc, receiving shipments of Russian wheat at its ports, signing arms contracts and energy investments, and gradually moving toward an alternative engineering of the future. But the choices are not without cost. Either Cairo joins the Atlantic axis, remaining hostage to aid and red lines, or it rises as an Arab and African pillar in a multipolar world, where sovereignty is not begged for, but made. Egypt, now on the edge, between the fire of war, the possibility of collapse, and perhaps a new birth worthy of it, its history, and its dignity. If it can withstand blackmail, refuse to become a sphere of influence for parties that see it only as a pressure card, hold on to its sovereignty, it may write new lines in the story of freedom. The Nile still flows, and the people have not lost hope yet, and the future, ultimately, has not yet been written.